an excellent job. My name is Daileann, and yes, I will be sharing my screen in just a moment. Just give me a second here as I see it's trying to adjust. I am one of the team leads that work at CHN, so Community Health Network of Connecticut, that primarily works with the perinatal population. So I am here today to talk a little bit about the CDC's Hear Her campaign. Some of you may have heard about this campaign, and some of you are probably wanting to learn a little bit more. So I will do my best to provide as much information as possible. I am going to start my share from the beginning here, and if someone could just let me know if they're able to see it once I get it up there, that'd be great. So give me 1 second. It should be up right now. I'm going to move
we can
this
see
bar
it.
so it's not showing. Excellent, excellent. So you know what? Let me move this as well because this is probably coming up like a bar on your screen, blocking things. How's that? All right. So the Hear Her campaign, we're going to jump right into, and I have this slide is a really brief slide on the information. We're going to talk a little bit about the problem, right, what the campaign is, and ICM, which stands for our intensive care management, what our action plan even looks like that we're doing about this whole campaign that has been launched, and then just a quick summary. So the problem. Many of you are likely aware of all of this, so it might be a bit of preaching to the choir here, but it's always good to just be able to set at least the tone of what we're talking about. The U.S. has a maternal mortality rate that is significantly higher than comparable countries. In addition to it having a high rate, it also is doing worse. So as countries are progressing and are doing better, the U.S. is actually trending worse. And many of us know that the maternal child, just that pulse, taking the pulse on that kind of gives us an idea of what the overall country is doing. So if we can't keep our mothers and babies healthy, we're not doing so well as it pertains to overall health in our country. The severe maternal mortality and morbidity has been increasing, and this affects thousands of women each year, right? There is a concentrated effort to improve the outcomes of the nation mothers, and that is a part of what the CDC is trying to do, is find a way to mitigate the number of people who are either having near misses or deaths by increasing education for individuals who are pregnant and even their support people. As many as 2/3 of pregnancy-related deaths are preventable. The Department of Health and Human Services has devised an action plan to address and issue targeted information for women during their perinatal phase. So this includes reducing the maternal mortality rate by 50% in 5 years is a goal. It might sound like a lofty goal, but it is a goal. So the CDC's Division of Reproductive Health is committed to healthy pregnancies and deliveries of every woman. And I know we're sensitive around using the term woman, so every pregnant individual. The Hear Her campaign seeks to raise awareness of potentially life-threatening warning signs during the perinatal period. So part of what is happening is providing information to each pregnant person about what the warning signs are, what do they look like, what is it that you would need to tell your provider about early on and not just wait. That is one of the things that is truly emphasized. Primary audience include the pregnant individual that is giving birth or one who has given birth within the last year. As we know now, starting April 1st, there's been an expansion, right, for Medicaid where we're not only covering members up to 90 days postpartum as far as insurance, but people are now covered up to a year, which based on the data that we know tells us that this is a great move because people are dying up to 365 days post-delivery. So that was a great move on Connecticut's part to expand that. In addition to that, some of you may be aware that we also have a program that has been extending coverage for pregnancy and delivery even to anyone. So whether they have documentation or don't have documentation to be in the state, they are still able to get coverage, which for many who we've reached out to have been ecstatic to learn that they now have coverage at least for their pregnancy and delivery. We're not to the point yet of covering their postpartum, but at least at this point, they're no longer paying, whether it be a prorated or completely paying out of pocket for those services. Hopefully this will improve the health for our future children that will be here in this country. Secondary audiences include healthcare providers that interact with women in the perinatal period, because part of what the data also shows is that individuals are not feeling like they are listened to. They don't feel like they are heard. And so they feel oftentimes that providers are dismissing some of their concerns. So what the CDC has put out is information for providers just to remind us to listen. Right? As clinicians, I know sometimes we see a situation and we make our assessment and we move based on the information that we have, but just empowering members and reminding them that they are experts of their bodies, that is something that we encourage and we support, and that is a part of what the Hear Her campaign speaks to as well. So some of the objectives are to increase awareness of the serious pregnancy-related complications and the warning signs, empower women to speak up and raise concerns, even if that means they need to see another provider. We don't encourage for women to change providers like towards the end of their pregnancy or anything like that. We know sometimes that could be a little tricky, a little difficult to navigate, because oftentimes providers don't really want to work with someone who has been serviced by someone else, and then now they're in the 8th or 9th month of their pregnancy, and now they're taking them on. So we encourage that if for whatever reason it's not a really great working relationship that members have with their providers, that they make us aware so that we can help them to transition earlier on in the pregnancy. It is important that they feel encouraged and supported from their provider and feel that they're getting respectful care. So we encourage women's support systems to be engaged in important conversations. So part of what we have is a perinatal learning group. That is part of how we are providing information, because one would say, okay, so you have this campaign. There are pregnant individuals that need to receive this information. How are you helping to do that? One of the things that we're helping to do to provide information is we have perinatal learning groups. And we have one every month on different topics, one of them being the Hear Her campaign. We have others like, preparing for labor, so, they know how to pack their bags and things they can ask for the doctors and, things like that, the importance of car seat safety, those kinds of information. We have one on asthma and pregnancy. And we also have the Hear Her campaign. And it's when we speak to those members about it, we find out, do you know anything about this? Do you understand why, this is important? And then we dive into the fact that they are their body's expert. Despite whatever knowledge a clinician may have, you as the individual who are expecting have been in your body your entire life. And if you feel something is wrong, you have to trust that. Trust your gut and understand that it's not enough for someone to just say to you, it's fine. It looks like, you're just progressing normally. It's not okay to be brushed off, knowing that you have not addressed something that at the very core of you has told you that there's something wrong. So we provide tools for women and providers to better engage in life-saving conversations. And some of those you can find really by Googling, like the Hear Her campaign. It brings up that information pretty easily. All the things that are on the website are shareable. So that includes the graphics, the palm cards, the social media information. All of that is on there at the Hear Her campaign on their website. So the action plan, we obtain information from the member advisory work group so that we have feedback, because we believe strongly that if we're going to be providing information to members, we need to at least be sure that what we're sharing is informative, it's helpful, and we are meeting the members where they are when we're communicating. So the member advisory work group was really big in helping us to be able to devise an action plan to share the information. We spoke about the imagery of the mailing, the videos that even that we would share to see if they were effective. We provided education to our staff about the campaign and also resources. And again, we send information through regular email mail and also traditional mail. The social media platforms, texting, I mentioned already the perinatal learning group, and us emphasizing the need to be empowered and provide information, and also provide information in our member newsletter. That is also another venue where we share information with our members twice a year, and so that's part of where we have also put this information. There is a video that I'd like to share with you because this video, I think, kind of drives home a bit of the stories that you see, because what is really impactful, and we know this, right, is hearing people's stories and what they've been through. And I have one here that I'd like to share with you this morning. It was acting a little staticky, so I hope it will work for us. So give me 1 minute as I pull that up. 1 moment, please. Share of this screen. Stop that. Allow me to share the other screen.
Husband and I are both in the Air Force.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to start over. I realize you maybe weren't able to hear it earlier on. 1 moment.
I have one son. He turned 2 in September. He's a wild man, as 2-year-olds are. What can I say? He's perfect. My husband and I are both in the Air Force. He was deployed while I was pregnant. He got back about a week before our son was born. My pregnancy was perfect until about 38-week mark. I was tired all the time. I had pretty excessive swelling. When I asked about my swollen ankles, it was, well, you're pretty pregnant. I kind of brushed off all my concerns. It was my first baby, and I'd never been pregnant before. At my 40-week checkup, I had my blood pressure was elevated. I had protein in my urine, and I wanted to go into labor naturally, so they sent me for a non-stress test. When I got to the hospital the next day for the testing, my blood pressure was much higher. I had more protein in my urine, and they admitted me right there. They said, we have to induce you. It was a couple failed induction attempts, about a day and a half, 2 days, and then they finally broke my water, and I went into labor. I think it was about 10 hours of active labor, and they finally had to call it, so they rushed me back for an emergency C-section. I hemorrhaged, and my kidneys failed. I was in ICU for, I think, 7 more days, and I held my son for about 30 minutes the first day, so I didn't see him again for a week. And when I finally got out, I was doing dialysis in the first hospital. Finally got out, and I continued dialysis for another year until I got a kidney transplant. My husband was right by my side through the entire labor process. He was really my lifeline. Made sure that I was getting the best care that I could be getting. So at the time, I didn't know what was going on. He fought for me so hard. The whole thing. It's incredible. My son is the light of my life. He's the biggest challenge I've ever faced. But being a mother is amazing. And we have this story together. We both survived. And Not everyone who faces what I faced gets to say that. Hear her.
So that's just one of a few Hear Her videos. As you see here, Allison Felix, the Olympian, she also has a story of preeclampsia and potentially life-threatening pregnancy. Valencia, there's a few here that could help with driving home just the information and the importance of this. Now, as Kylie shares her story, she shares that as a woman that appears to be a white woman, right, living in America. But what we know is that as a black woman, it's 2 to 3 times more likely that a black woman may die having gone through childbirth or anything relating to pregnancy. So that also is something for us to be aware of with just this whole issue that we're having with doing a better job with taking care of our nation's mothers. So I definitely want to, again, just speak to what it is that we know. What we know is 700 women die every year in the U.S. from pregnancy-related complications. And as we mentioned before, there are also near misses that are multiplied by this number. And then the Hear Her campaign is raising awareness of urgent maternal warning signs. Now, the purpose is not, again, to just inform the person who is expecting, but also everyone that is within the country. This way, if it's even your coworker that can see an expecting woman or an expecting individual, and bring to her attention that, you look a little puffy today, or you look a little swollen, that could be something that could trigger for that person to look further into that situation. So sometimes the people who see us most often is not the ones who are, of course, making, clinical decisions. And so the transition is better seen by someone who sees you more regularly, because they can tell if you have even slight swelling versus a clinician who, yes, would be able to detect some of that, but if it's not someone that they're seeing every day, it might not be as obvious. So this is why this information is important for as many people to know as possible, whether you can't get pregnant, male, female, no matter who you are, because then it creates almost an army of people who will be able to be extra set of eyes to be able to help with mitigating the issues that we're looking at. So the more people aware of the reportable signs and symptoms, increase the general knowledge in society. This will likely increase the ability for concerning situations to be identified and addressed. So ICM's work to improve maternal mortality and morbidity, it continues. Right? We continue to support members in the ICM program. Even after they've, gone to like our perinatal learning group, we still offer support and education and information around ways that they can remain healthy according to the plan of care that was developed by their provider. We do address social determinants of health needs. We still have our community health workers that look to address those things, and it's comprehensive in the way that it's done, because whether it be need for food or trying to provide information for how they can help with housing. There's a food, whether it be diaper banks or even clothing or furniture for the baby. All these things are a part of the support that's offered. And then referring members to needed support systems, right? So whether it be our other ASOs like the Behavioral Health Partnership or the Dental Partnership, we still try to help in facilitating or collaborating so that the member can have somewhat of a holistic approach to how we're providing support. And then, of course, last but not least, providing information on the Hear Her campaign and what it all entails. So that is a really overview of the Hear Her campaign. I believe I mentioned earlier, but I'll say again, they did recently, and by they I mean the CDC, recently did put some information out for providers to help with emphasizing what respectful care looks like, right? The need to knock on the door, the need to be patient, the need to use the language line if that's needed, the need to answer individuals' questions. And we encourage our members to ask questions. When members participate in their care by asking questions and being prepared, it's less likely for issues to occur. So it's important to remain engaged and not just default to this the provider knows everything sort of mentality. So we have a few minutes if there's any questions or comments or, things to discuss. All right. Well, we have a room of 38 other people. So I imagine someone might have had something to say, but if not, that's completely fine.
So hi, this is Maggie Young. And I'd just like to say that the information is definitely very much appreciated. I did not know about this. And I do have a couple of people, actually friends, who actually have either experienced or could benefit from this. So I will be taking it there in addition to Rosemary and I having this information for our program. So thank you so much for bringing this information. I sent messages and everything already. I was like, have you heard about these?
This is Rosemary speaking. So did I. As you talk, I'm sharing too.
No, that's awesome, because that's exactly it. And that's what we're talking about with the society, just everyone having the information. Because what I didn't go through on here were the list of different signs and warning signs and symptoms that they actually talk about. They go through and they actually list with images and everything. Are you having a headache or blurred vision, spots before your eyes? Are you noticing puffiness? So for someone to actually go on the site and look at those things, that would definitely be helpful. They even have information there that kind of have people write down what some of their questions might be, because you know how when you get in the provider's office, sometimes it's like, what was that I was thinking again? Just to give people some place for them to put their thoughts down so they can, succinctly just go in and share what their thoughts or their questions are. So that's a part of some of the tools that are a part of what the CDC is offering as well.
And I'll make one more comment. I also love the idea, and I apologize, I have to be off camera. I'm sitting in a location where the people who I'm working with can pass by and they can be seen, so I have to protect them. So that's
understood.
the reason. So I'm not intending to have my back turned. But I wanted to make a comment. I loved your comment about the fact that a person who will see the individual more often can make a better assessment, because I think we oftentimes believe that the person who is identified as the professional is the person who actually would make the more appropriate or, assessment easier. But that really makes so much sense to me. And I really appreciate hearing that. And you're so passionate about what you're like. It was really good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And yes, this is my thing. Maternal child health equity. That's me. And so I always just, love talking about this. Any way that I could provide additional information is something that speaks to my spirit and helps me feel like I'm fulfilling what I need to do here. But it's true. It is true. Clinicians are trained. We are trained. We know how to assess. We know how to look for, capillary refills and all those other things. But yeah, the person who sees you regularly, it's important. I was talking to a member the other day, and she was talking about breastfeeding, right? And she was saying, I really want to do this. I didn't think I could, but then I was able to make milk and I could do it. But, my significant other, he's not really for it, and it makes it even harder. And it just reinforced in just yesterday's conversation how when the people around you are not aware of the benefits or not aware of things to look out for, how much harder it is and how much more of a responsibility the person whose body is undergoing all that change has to carry with them. Right? So if more people can be supportive and informed, it makes it just easier. At least someone else that, you could rest your head on their shoulder in knowing that they too are paying attention to the different things that could be happening with you. And so that was just another thing that reinforced this just yesterday for me. And I felt really bad. Like, let him know that he could go to this site or that site to get information, and so that he could see the benefit for you and your baby. But yeah.
I just wanted to add one quick comment. I love your passion. You're an amazing presenter. I feel like so just inspired just watching you speak and seeing how much you really care about this. And I think for me, what stuck out really a lot did, but with everything going on with the tax on reproductive health and all the things that are going on in our world, the focus on empowering people to be the decision makers with their own body and to know themselves and to own that, I just think is so, so crucial and so important. And I really appreciate that lens. And I know all of our providers work really hard to kind of have that lens when they're working with people. And this was just a really helpful reminder. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say for our provider network, I think these are really wonderful resources that have been outlined for us. And I would really, my ask would be to think about how this can be incorporated into the groups that you're doing with the women in program. If there are materials that can be posted, I know that we were able to help programs get access to tablets or laptops for the women. And so individuals who are pregnant, who may be able to access some of these resources on those tablets or laptops, that I think would be a really great use of some of the resources to pull this information together. In particular, I think about the close-knit milieus within our residential settings that have been created by all of you. And so that really does create a very safe space where people know each other and maybe able to notice some of those changes that we just learned about. So I think it's definitely something that we can take back to the programs to try to help support the folks that we serve, and I think be a sounding board to help them feel empowered in those tough conversations with medical providers, because I think it's very easy, and unfortunately with stigma for our population, I think sometimes when people go to their appointments and they know that there's a substance use history or there may be mental health history, sometimes those concerns can be further minimized. And I think collectively we can help support some of that to mitigate it. So I just wanted to sort of share that and see if anyone else has any closing thoughts. This was very wonderful. Thank you so much. We have an awfully quiet group today.
For sure.
All right. Well, I will stop my share. I can definitely put my my email address in the chat. So if there's any questions after, I'm accessible.
That would be much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And this, as a side note for folks that weren't on in the beginning, we do sort of keep track of who comes to this meeting for both the minutes and for our purposes of follow-up. So if you do not have your full name on your picture, if you could put that in the chat, or if you're on the phone, just so that we can account for you being present and we don't have to follow up and say, where were you?
You're not in yet. Signed in. Oh, no, there you go. I was in the wrong spot. Sorry.
All right, so let's, Sheila, I will turn it over to you for our next presenter.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Shelley. Thank you again, Daileann. That was a terrific presentation and an amazing amount of useful information. Our next presenter is Julia Levy from Sparkler Learning. Sparkler is a mobile app that helps parents check in on how their child is doing against key milestones and provides activities to spark their early learning. So I am going to welcome Julia now, and she is a co-host. She can go ahead and share her screen if she has some slide decks to share with us. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. I'm just going to go into slideshow view. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, victory. So I think that some of you might have been on an earlier presentation I did. This might be similar, but I added a few different slides. And I'd love to take the time to answer any questions and meet the needs of the people in this group so that we're sure you have the information you need. So if you do have questions as I'm going through, please shout them out, raise your virtual hand, put them in the chat. I really want to make sure we're answering questions. So today we are going, I'm going to change the way I'm looking at my screen. Okay, we are going to give a little bit of context, talk about screening, and talk about Sparkler, and talk about how we could share this if we're interested in sharing it with families. All of you, I have talked a lot about this, so I won't belabor this slide, but obviously early childhood is a vital period of time. All the research shows how important the early years are in children's development. Babies are learning from their first moments or even before, and children's early experiences shape their lives. And so that's sort of why we're talking about the early years here. And providing support to parents through information, resources and tools, and connections to people who can help can really help parents and also help children to develop in healthy ways in the early years. And as we all also know, because we've all lived through it, early childhood is always important, but right now the kids are have lived through a lot. And so just a few statistics to put the context, we give you some context before we start in on the specifics of Sparkler. Children who are going to be starting kindergarten in the fall were 2 or 3 when the pandemic started. Many have had interrupted preschool years. More than 70,000 babies have been born in Connecticut since COVID began. And in this world we're living in, many schools and preschools obviously have been closed on and off, or parents are concerned about their children's social and emotional development. Some children born during the pandemic are lagging developmentally, and many are falling behind academically. There's a lot of concerns about mental health. There have been a bunch of reports, which I'm sure many of you have read, about the effect of the pandemic on mental health of both children and parents. And the effect is amplified for the most vulnerable children and families. So this is a lot. This is a lot. And I know all of us have a lot of this top of mind, but I think that it just, for all of us, amplifies the importance of supporting families and making sure that people have access to tools that can support them and support their children and help them answer the questions that people inevitably have and access the supports that people inevitably need in the early years. So with all of that, we get to Sparkler. So Sparkler is a tool that OEC, the Office of Early Childhood in Connecticut, is providing across the state as of last October to families with children 0 to 5 years old and to programs that are serving those families. And it lets families check in on their children's development to understand and support them in the early years. It also helps to bring the different people, professionals serving families together to work together on behalf of families. I'm going to attempt to play this 30-second video, and then if it doesn't work, we'll move on.
All parents want the best for their young kids. Sparkler can help. Sparkler is an app that helps parents and caregivers understand and support their kids from birth through age 5, answer simple questions, and get a custom report on their development. Get ideas to spark their learning through play, and get coaching from experts right on your phone or tablet. The Sparkler app is free for Connecticut families. Learn more and download today.
Okay, that's a quick overview. So what is Sparkler? So for families, as that video said, Sparkler is a mobile app. It's in both English and Spanish, and soon it's going to be in Chinese as well. It's on Android and iOS devices, tablets, phones, and parents get 3 core things. First, we have developmental screening. The ages and stages questionnaires are available through the app, both the ASQ3 and the ASQ-SE. which is the one that focuses on social and emotional learning. And those are tools that parents can fill out, questionnaires parents can fill out to check in on their children's development. Second, we have a whole library of play-based learning activities that parents can do together with their children to help them engage with their kids. We also have a library of tips for parents, which are parent-focused mini units on different aspects of parenting and early childhood development. And we provide connection with professionals. So through the app, we have a pretty robust two-way messaging system where parents can connect with care coordinators at 211 Child Development to answer their question, or with the people who they've linked with at their local schools or programs. So parents can connect through the app with home visitor, or with a birth to 3 provider, or with a teacher at their school. And so it's an engagement platform. And schools and providers are welcome to use the mobile app to see what parents are seeing and share their experience. They can also use our web-based dashboard to monitor and engage with their families. And if we have time, I'm happy to show you around the dashboard and help you understand how that works and how you might use it if you're in a position where you might be linking with families through Sparkler. A few just big summary numbers. We did some pilots in the state, and then we launched, as I said, in October 2021, and it's growing. People are liking it. We have more than 9,000 children in the state who are now being served by Sparkler, and we've set up more than 1,200 providers at local programs who are using the app to engage with their families. And one of the things that I think is really exciting is that nearly 60% of the families who are signing up are linking up with their local providers. So people are using this to get local support from the people who are working with their families, which is exciting. I mean, it's a community. It's community engagement, and it's showing that people are accessing supports locally and engaging with people who they trust. I'm going to quickly give you an overview of the sign-up process, and then we'll go through what's in the app. This quick video shows the process, and it shows the family who's signing up using the code CT, which is the access code for any family in the state, and then they get support from 211 Child Development. If you are a parent and you're signing up linking with your school or other program, they'll give you a code that you use to link with them. And that's what you'd put in instead of CT in the first step. So when you're signing up, you first put in that access code, which is the thing that lets you link with somebody. So it's important to put that in, or you might not be linked with the right school or program that you want to link with. So you put in CT in this case. And then as a parent, you put in your email address, and then you make up a password, something that you'll remember, just like any app that you might be signing up with. Then the parent sets up their account. All of this information here, other than the name, is optional. It's nice if you're working with parents to have them put in their phone number, so you can contact them if they need additional support or connection with resources, because obviously that's the point of this, to help families, to connect them with the supports they need. Then they add their children. The most important, or one child at a time. The most important thing on this screen of the sign-up process is to put in the correct birthday. The birthday and the prematurity if the child is under 2 is how we determine the correct ages and stages questionnaire and the correct content. Then there's a few optional questions the parent can answer to help us get to know their practices and who they are a little bit. And then they see who they're linking with, who they're sharing their information with. They consent. And then they're in and they can use it. And as you see at the very top of that screen, we'll talk about it, they see the first ages and stages questionnaires that their child is eligible for. And they can do it right away, or they can wait. So when they first get in, as I said, they see the first ASQs that their child is eligible for, as long as their child is in that age range of 2 months old when the first ASQ pops up to 5.5. And it's the same ASQ that many of you are familiar with. As you may or may not know, The state of Connecticut was an early adopter of the ASQs. It's been using ASQs since the 1990s. And this is just the first mobile implementation of the ASQ, but the actual questionnaire is something a lot of providers and families across the state are familiar with. And it's a tool that's used to help educators, doctors, families understand children's strengths and set goals and access support. These are a few screenshots from our version, our mobile ASQ. It gives families context. Each question gets its own screen. There's different question types. Parents can skip around from section to section. They don't have to go sequentially. They can go back and forth. They can put down their phone and take care of their child and come back to it later. It will save their answers. They can even fill it out offline if they don't have a good internet connection and come back when they are on public Wi-Fi and finish. When they are finished, they see a little screen saying, "Are you sure you're done?" They say yes, and then they get a thank you. And that's important because it's up to the provider, the person, the organization that the family is linked with, to share the results with the family and give them the context that they need to understand. And if they do need extra support, or if they have questions, it's an opportunity to answer their questions and provide them with support. These are a few screenshots from the ASQ-SE. The ASQ-3 covers 5 domains of development, which are linked up with the domains throughout Sparkler. So we have communication. It measures communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social skills. The ASQ-SE, for the ASQ-3, as you probably know, you get 5 scores, 1 for each of those areas. The ASQ-SE gives you 1 overall score, but it has what the publisher of the Ages and Stages questionnaire, Brooks Publishing, calls 7 core social, emotional, behavioral areas. And so it can give you a sense of what your child is doing across those areas, but you only get 1 score as a parent. Why use Sparkler for screening? There are many reasons. First I'll say the ASQ continues to be available on paper. It can be Xerox from a paper binder. It can be accessed online through some programs. The mobile version is exciting, I think, because it boosts access. So it makes it easier, since we all have our phones everywhere. It makes it easier to just from wherever you are on the go, check in on your child's development. It allows for not just that moment in time of checking on your child by filling out a questionnaire, but a deeper ongoing engagement with the family. It also allows for building connections to support families. So not just filling out a piece of paper and handing it in, but connecting with people who can help you. And it facilitates providers' ability to understand the big picture and make decisions and provide resources to communities that support their needs. And these charts on the right are just about the increasing prevalence of mobile and smartphone technology. We're moving to the next section I wanted to highlight, which is play. So we define play pretty broadly. It's any interaction with a parent or between parents and children that can promote learning. We have 10 different age groups from birth through age 5. And when parents go to play within the app, they can just swipe through a series of activities, and they can find something that sparks their interest, that they are interested in based on the theme or based on the skill or domain that it covers. We also enable the providers to send activities to families to help them find things that they think will specifically address their child's needs. When they tap into one of these activities, they see something that looks like this. So they see some simple tips that they can follow, instructions in order to play the activity. They see more information, how to simplify the activity if they want an easier version, a way to stretch if they want more of a challenge, why they're doing it, the skill they're working on, vocabulary words they can use with their children. The parent, once they've, the idea is to read through all this quickly and then put down your phone and play with your child. It's all off-screen play, and it's all parent directed. So it's never like the child is looking at the app or playing anything on screen. After the parent plays with the child, they can, if they want, take a picture of what the child does or creates, and they can rate the activity, whether the child liked it or not, whether the parent thought it was on the right level for the child, and then they get a reminder of what they did, what skill they built with their child. All of our activities are broken down into these 4 domains: heart, mind, body, and words, and we have 24 sub-skills. So each of these little activities is building different skills. And the idea is if you play a bunch of activities with your child, you'll be building the whole child. You'll be working on developing a whole range of early skills with your child through play. The baby content within Sparkler is organized around sort of baby times, the times in the baby's day. So changing time, meal time, playtime, toddler and little. So toddler is 1.5 through 36 months, and littles is 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. And those are organized by themes, so seasons and animals and other fun things that you might want to play around with a young child. One thing that we've noticed is a lot of families are signing up. A lot of ASQs have been completed. We are seeing a lot of families browsing through the play content, and we're right now looking at ways to increase engagement around play, because that's what that's what matters really in the early years, those interactions between children and their parents and caregivers. And so we're looking at how to encourage more play and change behaviors in ways that benefit kids. So one of the things we're trying is this camp concept, which will be all through the app, all virtual. We're announcing it in the next couple of days, and I'm happy to share more information about it, but it will start in July. On July 4th, it goes for 8 weeks, and it will have themes and 5 fun activities per week. We're also partnering with the libraries in the state of Connecticut and doing live read-alouds and story times weekly tied to the themes. And it's all about trying to encourage play and see if sending targeted messages, doing some prizes and virtual badges will change engagement in a way that supports parents and supports children. And as people are playing, as parents are completing this developmental screening, they're seeing their progress. So this rainbow visualization helps families see how much they've grown their children's hearts, minds, bodies, and words. And they can also look back in their little scrapbook, which is under Grow, to see their progress together. What have they done over time? It's hard to remember sometimes what you do day to day or week to week or month to month, and you can see their progress in play and learning. This is showing you the tips for adults. You can tap in and see a whole bunch of content. We have maybe 70 or 80 units at this point of tips for parents. Among those are summaries of all of the CDC's Learn the Science Act Early developmental monitoring milestones, which are very useful for parents so they can see what's coming next, what to expect. But we have other summaries of all of the skills. We have tips on sleep. We have how to create a book together, how to use slime to learn. There's all sorts of content in there. We're always adding more that we are hearing would be useful to parents. And it's also, just like with the play content, the parents can browse through and click into something that interests them. We can also, as providers, can also go through the library and the dashboard and find content that meets a parent's need and send it to them to make it easy for the parent to find the information that will help them start to answer the questions that they have. This is highlighting the coaching. So through the app, as I said earlier, Parents can connect and get answers. We send out regular little nudges, tips, new content, and other nudges to parents via push notification that goes to coaching within the app. Parents can respond to those. The programs or providers who parents are linking with can also use this to communicate with individuals or with groups. Parents can even connect with each other. So dad and mom could connect, or mom and grandma could connect, and then they could message each other if they want through Sparkler to talk about their children's development. What are they playing together? What are they learning? What questions do they have? So it's and we've seen some families using it in really creative, interesting ways. This chart shows what happens behind the scenes when a family submits a developmental screening. So they submit, we immediately on the back end are generating this colorful report that you see under step 2. The report is shared by the either 211 child development or the school or provider to the family, and then the family is either connected with additional support services. So it could be birth to 3 if the child's under 3, it could be preschool special education, it could be Help Me Grow, which is that little colorful flower. They could just be told, continue playing and learning through Sparkler, or given other supports. And this is the overall picture. There's a lot of different local supports that families are being pointed to, but the idea is to use this process to support families, answer their questions, and make sure that they get the context that they need along with the report on what their answers show about their child's learning and development. This is slightly bigger, and I'm happy if anybody wants to see this in an actual a format that they can read. This is what the ASQ3 report looks like. The first page has these 5 colorful bars, and it's the 5 domains that are measured by the ASQ3. It's communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, personal, social, and each of these spectrums ranges from refer to monitor to on track, and you can see with this little arrow and the tiny word parent where the child is falling based on the parent's responses to the questionnaire. And so it's an easy way for the parent to see where their child is. The second page has suggested activities, 1 per domain, then upcoming milestones, things to look out for, and then it just goes through all their questions, and all the questions and the parents' responses. In some cases, Connecticut-based programs are answering, the parents are answering and the programs are answering based on their observations of the children, and if that happens, the report will show the comparison, what the parent said and what the provider said, so the 2 sets of answers can be compared and talked about in the same meeting. And this is what the ASQ report looks like. We have a lot of materials, digital materials, printed materials, to share all of this out with families. And we're doing a lot of work to get these materials, posters, palm cards, bookmarks, etc., out to different organizations that are sharing them with parents to encourage families to check on their children's development and to monitor and support their children's development in the early years. And if any of the people who are here want posters or other information, I'm happy to talk more with you about that. I think that this is where I wanted to pause and answer your questions. I'll just say that we also have a whole dashboard, which I mentioned. It's how providers engage with families and monitor their progress. And if any of you are working with families and do want a code and do want to engage with families via Sparkler, I'm happy to talk more about that, or share the dashboard and show you a demo version if you have questions around that. I wanted to not belabor it in case that's not something that you wanted to talk about, but I'm happy to do that if you want. So I am just I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see people, and then we can talk through whatever questions you have.
So Julia, I'll just start, and then my hope is that our folks in program can talk a little bit about, we have some time, so, and you know, I don't want to have to call on folks, but I will if we need to. So if folks in the residential programs in particular, and Maggie and Rosemary, you're exempt because you have been talking. Thank you, I appreciate it. You know, these programs all have women that reside in program as part of the treatment experience. So women are coming into program with a substance use disorder and receiving services. And so they are sort of in a setting. And so I'm interested in terms of thoughts about how this can be integrated into the program. And certainly, I think particularly as we launch into the 1115 waiver, there are expectations around collaboration and providing programming for the children in care. And I think this would be a wonderful resource. I can share with you all personally. Many of you know I have a 2-year-old, and Audrey and I, this is one of our rainy day go-tos because it has some really great ideas just in terms of play things. And so I heard on this presentation a while ago, I downloaded the app, and there are some really fun games that don't require a lot of out-of-pocket expense. And so, for example, there's one on playing with scarves and scarf movement, and she's like obsessed with it. She always brings me the scarves. So I do think it's something fun that you can do just for some ideas and share with the ladies in program who may not have access to some of materials. You know, if you go on the Montessori school stuff, some of the cost for a lot of those items can be extensive. And so this is a really great resource that I think the women that we serve could benefit from. So I'm going to turn it over to the programs. I'd like to hear your ideas. I'm sorry, go ahead, Julia.
No, I was just gonna say, one, I'm glad that Audrey likes the scarf play. But yeah, we try to create activities that people can do without having a lot of extra stuff. That's intentional. And so I think all families can have fun with activities that don't require buying stuff. I mean, occasionally we'll have something like make your own Play-Doh, where obviously you need the ingredients, but most of the activities require no extra materials that you don't just have around. And so that's intentional, and I'm glad that that you're enjoying it. I'm happy to be quiet and take your questions.
Hi, this is Laura Lee. I just want to say it was really great material. I know you mentioned having a code. I would love to be able to have the code, because on Friday we do parenting with the ladies, and a lot of them I think would really benefit from some of the activities they can do with their children in their own rooms. So I think it would be really great, and we're going to try to have them log on Friday and see if they can get on. Or if we have any questions, we'll be glad to. I'll reach out to you with that.
Sure, yeah. I'll put my contact information in to here. Julia. There you go. So yeah, feel free to email me. So just the process, if you want, for setting it up, it's pretty simple. But what we do is we have a quick meeting with you to figure out what the code should be. It can be like your name, or it could be the program's name, or it could be some random letters that people enter in order to link with you. And we also need to know who, like, the official name of the organization that they're linking with, because as part of the sign-up process, parents are consenting to share their information, and we need to be sure we're upfront and transparent about who they're sharing with. And so what we do is we just ask you a few questions, and we also have to determine who on your end, is it just you who can see the family's information, or are there other people on your team who need to be able to have administrative access to the dashboard in order to see that information and print out the reports and whatever. The other question that we ask during those startup meetings is who's in the lead with the families. Is it you who will share the developmental screening results with the families if they do complete them? Or do you want somebody, one of the care coordinators at 211 Child Development, to get in touch with the families and provide them with support if they need support? And the answer to that is going to be, how are you currently dealing with developmental screening? And if you're currently have capacity and are doing it on paper and other formats, then probably you'll be in the lead and continue that using Sparkler. Is just a different platform. If you're not, 211 is an amazing resource and is equipped to get back to families, and if they have questions or need support, to provide them with support. And so programs can have access to the dashboard either way and engage with families and see what they're doing. But there is that question of who's responsible for getting back to the family and answering their questions and supporting them if they do need support. So that's a very long-winded way of saying email me and we can set up a time to talk. But it's actually a quick process to get it set up once we do have that meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And Julia, we currently have, just so you know, we will be having 5 PPW treatment programs, and then we'll have 2 step-down programs that are all serving pregnant and parenting clients. So I think it would be really great either if we could connect offline, or if it's easier to connect with the programs directly, so that we can make sure that materials are getting out, so that in the interim, moms have access to that, and also the REACH programs as well, which are more in the community and doing outreach and engagement. It might be something that they could add to their resource kit or toolkit for families.
Yeah, so definitely. I think it would be great to connect and figure out the overall sort of organization and structure of these codes within Sparkler. We have been organizing families in the state by 2 plus, a little more than 2 different main ways. One, for most programs, that we're able to group them geographically. So we're able to say, oh, these are families in Hartford, these are families in Bridgeport, and group them within cohorts that are geographically situated. And then for some programs, like home visiting, where they go across different geographic lines, we've organized them by the home visiting agencies. And so I'd love to figure out how we're organizing these cohorts so we're putting them in the right place in a way that at a really high level you'd be able to see who are your moms and understand their engagement. I also like to understand if somebody centrally would want to sort of have maybe not see all of the individual family data, but be able to see across the program what family, like how many families are signing up, how many screenings are they completing, how are the children progressing.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think there's definitely more than that we can do together as a system. Anyone else in programs that would like to sort of share?
I have a quick question. Would you suggest that some of these activities could be utilized for virtual visits?
Yeah.
I know sometimes, I know that that's a thing ever since shutdown. It's been really hard to keep very young children engaged on a screen, so to speak. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, so thing one, let me just show you. If you are signed into the dashboard as a provider, you see this library tab, and you can say, I'm working with a 9-month-old, and we want to work today on expression. And it will pull up a bunch of activities that you could share with the parent, and then you can press on this, and it will put it's a way of sending the activity to the family. So that's one thing. So you could browse through activities that might be good to play with the family, either during your virtual meeting or for them to try after the meeting, and then you could send it to them. I mean, all of the activities themselves are, as I said, off-screen activities. So they're not really, it's not something you would really, it's not like you would show them a video of something really during, and that would be the virtual visit, but you could definitely use the activities that we provide to inspire what you do with a family during a virtual visit. So you could find the activity on playing with scarves and work through it with the family during a virtual visit, and then send it to them as a way that they could easily follow up and try it later after your time together. So there's different ways that you could use Sparkler to support your work during a virtual visit. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just anyways, we've been exploring all sorts of different ways to try to keep kids engaged and build those, skill building around engagement. But sometimes if children are removed from care and they're the only way that they have a visit with their parent is, over a screen, and they're very small, it's, you can only talk so much to a 3-year-old, right? So the incorporation of play and activities, I think, is a nice thought, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you'll probably, because you know the local context so well, you'll be able to come up with, if you look around, I would say you should download the app, create an account using, you can use CT, which is the general sign-up code for any family in Connecticut, and make a real or pretend child who's 0 to 5 years old, and I'm sure you'll think of ideas that would work in the local context. Like, I've seen people using the app in ways I wouldn't have imagined that are really neat, and I love sort of getting ideas from how like, for example, I saw recently it was a foster family, and it, like, sending, basically they had linked up with the biological parents, and they were sharing information about the children via Sparkler, which, like, they had pictures in there of the child's play, and I didn't talk to them. I was just observing from my vantage point, but it was really interesting to see that was like a safe way for them to be engaging with each other. And I'm sure there's a lot of really interesting things like that you could do with the app, but each family's so different, it's hard to know what's the right answer to your question for everybody. But you'll probably, you'll have the ideas, and then I'd love to hear them, because I think that sharing those ideas helps lots of families figure out how to support children. Any other questions about dashboard, reports? If you do like reports and spreadsheets, we give you lots of reports and spreadsheets. If you have dashboard access, you can download spreadsheets galore of all of the families served through your program and analyze them, and you can get the ASQ reports and upload them into whatever systems you have, in addition to sharing them with the family. So there are, if that's what you're passionate about, we do have cool visualizations of the engagement, and also CSV files you can download to analyze.
I think that's really great. I'm just thinking about how that can really inform some of the groups and the topics. If people can really use that as a tool to kind of say, the milieu is constantly changing. Individuals are coming in and out with different needs. And so that's a really cool kind of idea, is to be able to see what people's strengths are, where there's some areas of support that might be needed. And one of the other things I just really like about this is I think about a lot of the families that we serve that haven't had, and as well as many of us on this line, that have had varying different degrees of parenting that we've received and experiences that we've received. It reminds me kind of the Read to Grow program, is where books are given to people at the hospital and things like that. And I think sometimes we've all had different experiences, and some of this stuff comes more naturally because it's things that we've done and we've experienced ourselves. And so we know how to play, or we know how to read with our kids, or we know how to do some of these things. And for a lot of the families we've served, they just haven't always been taught that, or they didn't experience it themselves. And so it's a really safe, friendly space to kind of make it accessible for everybody. As Shelley said, she's down there doing the scarf play, and I was thinking to myself when you talked about Play-Doh, like I would need like a coping skill strategy to manage slime and Play-Doh and glitter, because that was always hard for me as a parent.
I'm
like,
with you there.
oh my gosh, okay, who's vacuuming this glitter? My eye would be twitching in the corner. But you know, we all have our different strengths and the things that we kind of gravitate to more than others. And so I really like that this kind of speaks to every person that's parenting.
Yeah, that's
and maybe helps them be more creative in ways that they may not have always wanted to be. Slime is banned in my house. I'm going to be honest. I can't do it anymore, but I have lots of other things I can do with my children. We do bead, we do other things.
Every time my kids convince me to make slime, I'm like, this isn't.
Why did I do this?
Also, for the purposes of Sparkler, back when we made the slime content, I remember I personally tested so many different slime recipes, and it was so messy and so gross, but we were trying to look for one that didn't involve borax or other like very toxic substances, because it's for kids. Anyway, we ended up, I can't remember, but it was so messy. Yeah, so now I'm thinking about slime. But yeah, so I know a lot of parents don't want to use messy substances for obvious reasons in their homes, and we do have messy substances in here, but we also try to have a mix so that you don't have to do the messy stuff. If you don't want to do the messy stuff, you can still have fun and still learn.
Or they can go outside
water
with
in
their
the
slime.
bathtub.
In my house, they can go outside. That's what they can do with the slime.
Yeah, that's a good point. Outside play is always good. So yeah, that's a great point. And then on the other thing you said about using the information to provide resources, make decisions, I'm just going to flash the demo dashboard for a second again. You can, this is the main screen of the dashboard, and you can see the summary information about the families, but you can also, if you scroll down, see summary information about the screenings. And so over time, if you do have a lot of families, you can see things like, okay, X% of families had on track in all categories, but what were in the monitors and the refers, what areas were leading to the most trouble, like in the last, and you can sort it by different time periods. So you could say in the last month or in the last 6 months, what areas, and you could say, like if this were 10, you could say, oh, well, there are a lot of fine motor issues, and then you could use that information to support families and say, here's specific information for you, since it seems like fine motor is an area of concern. And you can see if families are enjoying the play activities, and you can also do this at an individual child level, of course, and then help that individual family find activities that they will like, that will engage their child, or if they are having trouble with a particular area. Especially if it's not something that rises to the level of them being eligible for birth to 3 supports or something else, you can give them ideas of things that they could do to support them and to support the child, even if they might not be eligible for certain other services. Okay, so I put my email address into the chat. I'm happy to hear from any of you or all of you to set you up for codes, and I'm also, if I send the slides to Shelly, you can share them out to anybody who's interested, who wants to review what we talked about.
That'd be great. If you want to send them to Sheila, she can.
Oh, Sheila.
Yep, she can include them in the minutes. Thank you so much. This was really wonderful. I appreciate you joining us today, and I hope that folks do reach out. We'll loop back just to sort of get a sense of how folks are connecting. But I think this is absolutely something that we should think about implementing across the system of care. So let's work collectively to make that happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was great to talk to you this morning, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
All
you, Julia.
right. Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you so much. So for our final presentation today, we have Chelsea Vozzolo and Jonathan Lillpopp. They'll be presenting on WISEWOMEN, the acronym for Well Integrated Screening and Evaluation for Women Across the Nation. This program serves low-income, uninsured, and underinsured women from ages 40 to 64 with heart disease and stroke risk factor screenings and services that promote healthy behaviors to reduce the risk for heart disease and stroke. So we have both Jonathan and Chelsea on the call with us. They're going to be co-hosts and they'll share their screen with their presentation. Welcome and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Chelsea Vozzolo, and I'm the Connecticut WISEWOMEN Program Coordinator. And today I'll be presenting with my colleague, Jonathan Lillpopp, who's manning the slides for us this morning. Thank you, Jonathan. And we're going to be talking about the Connecticut Early Detection and Prevention Program, which is comprised of a few different programs. But for the purposes of the Connecticut Women's Consortium, we'll be talking specifically about the Connecticut WISEWOMEN Program and the Connecticut Breast and Cervical Early Detection Program. You want to take it away, Jonathan?
Sure. Hopefully I'm doing this correctly. I'm not going to do the presentation. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to do a slideshow, I should say. So the Connecticut Early Detection Program is a fully integrated program of 4 different programs, which includes the Connecticut Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection, WISEWOMEN Colorectal Cancer, and Comprehensive Cancer Program. And it's been around, nationally since '91. And in Connecticut, we've served close to 80,000 women since the inception. We have a number of sites across the state. We contract with the major health systems in Connecticut, and they subcontract with numerous clinics and federally qualified healthcare facilities across the state. So there's really no part of the state where there isn't something that's fairly local for women to enroll on. And here's a list of the systems. Don't remember, I think it's 21 hospitals. One of the strengths of the program is that each contracted health facility, health system has a navigation team, and it starts with a project director, and the project director coordinates all the services for the women. And each project director will have a health systems navigator, which is assigned to help women who enroll in the program. The ability to get through the complicated processes that are probably very scary for most of us with insurance, and those without insurance, there are a lot of barriers and structural barriers and cultural barriers to care. And the health systems navigator also, it works with a clinical navigator that assists the patient, the client, with the medical coordination of care. And we also have our pride and joy of the community health navigators, which go out into the community to where the women live, work, and recreate. And most of them are part of the communities that they serve. And the team together makes the navigation through the healthcare system something that's doable for people that really need these services. So the general overview of who's eligible, it would be underinsured or uninsured women who are under 250% of the federal poverty level. And there are some age benchmarks depending on the services, and Chelsea will talk a little bit about the age benchmark for being eligible for WISEWOMEN later. But as you can see on the screen, essentially we start with cervical cancer screening at a very young age, and working according to the CDC's algorithms. As you get older, there are other services that are recommended. And we will take care of women in our program all the way up until their Medicare years. And if they're not covered by Medicare, we fast track them through the Department of Social Services to get them covered under the Medicaid system. These are the services that are covered by the breast and cervical component. As you can see, it's really a total care package. We want to make sure that our women are properly screened, and if they need to get into some diagnostic procedures, we guide them through that and all the way into a referral if it's necessary for treatment of any cancers or suspected cancers that are found. And a little bit about our demographics. As you can see, we have we serve everybody in Connecticut, regardless of race, ethnicity. You know, we're there for the people that need it. We have about 4,400 women each year that come through our program. So even in spite of COVID, we were able to navigate just about that amount. We probably would have been well into the 5,000–6,000 if COVID hadn't hit. So that's a real rough and quick and dirty about the breast and cervical component. In order to be enrolled into the WISEWOMEN, you have to have already been enrolled into the breast and cervical component of the program. And that's where Chelsea's going to take over.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And that was one of the first things that I was going to say, is that in order for a participant to take part in the Connecticut WISEWOMEN program, they must first be enrolled in the Connecticut Breast and Cervical program. And that's because in '93, Congress authorized CDC to expand the National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program to include screening for cardiovascular disease risk factors. But the breast and cervical program focuses on just that, breast and cervical cancer screening and early detection. We know that early detection saves lives. And so Congress said, well, rather than looking at women in a fragmented or compartmentalized way, we need to look at women as a whole body. And so they amended the Breast and Cervical Act to include the Connecticut, or not just Connecticut, WISEWOMEN program. And WISEWOMEN is a long acronym for Well Integrated Screening and Evaluation for Women Across the Nation. There's going to be a test on that later, just so you know. That was one of the first things that I learned when I took this position 7 years ago. But in addition to the breast and cervical cancer program, we're able to provide essentially a WISEWOMEN screening visit for participants. And we also have, one of the things that I love most about the WISEWOMEN program is that we also have health coaching or healthy behavior support services that we're able to offer to participants for free. Our programs are zero cost to the participants, which I think is just wonderful. So you could go to the next slide, Jonathan. Thank you. So as Jonathan said, we're working with low income, uninsured or underinsured women. The age range for WISEWOMEN participants is 40 to 64 years old. I have asked CDC multiple times every year since beginning in my position if we can expand that age group. I know there's a need for it in Connecticut, but unfortunately at this time, they're saying that that's not what we're not able to do that. But so as the slide says, it's for Connecticut WISEWOMEN, we're only able to serve that the 40 to 64 range. And again, we're screening for heart disease and stroke risk factors. And we're able to provide free screening and counseling for participants about their risk for heart disease and stroke. So to give you an example, Jennifer Lombardi, I'm seeing your name at the top of my screen. So you don't need to do anything, but I'm just going to use you as an example. Let's say you were eligible you're already enrolled in the breast and cervical cancer program, and you're falling in between the age range that WISEWOMEN requires. We could enroll you today, and we would provide, like I said, a WISEWOMEN visit. We would talk about your lifestyle factors in terms of physical activity, whether you smoke, what types of foods that you eat, any sugar sweetened beverages. So we talk about healthy foods, and we also talk about lifestyle factors. On top of that, we talk about, and we screen for your blood pressure. We do on the spot, well, we have the capability to do on the spot finger stick to get blood work results for your cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, and glucose, fasting glucose. And if a participant already has diabetes, we're able to get a hemoglobin A1C as well. And the Connecticut Wise Women program is the only Wise Women program across the country that has these mobile screening equipment. I don't know why other programs aren't using them. We've been doing it for 7 years. But the beauty is that our community health navigators can physically go wherever is safe and comfortable for both themselves and the participant to screen. So Jennifer, we could come to your home if it was safe and appropriate. We could meet you outside of your work on your lunch break to screen you for this program. So we're really trying to reduce barriers to participation, not build up more walls. And the mobile screening equipment has been wonderful in order to do that. So next slide, Jonathan. Oh, in addition to that, just to kind of wrap up what the office visit looks like. So Jennifer, when we do all of that, when we're looking at your blood pressure, we're looking at your height, your weight, your body mass index, our community health navigators have a written risk reduction counseling booklet that they provide to all participants. And we have it in 7 different languages. And then they would write down your results and talk to you about them, whether your BMI is in a healthy range, whether your blood pressure is high or if it's normal. And so we allow the participant to determine what, if anything, they're willing and ready to address about their health in order to improve it. So as I talked about, we're screening for heart disease and stroke risk factors. We're looking at blood pressure, cholesterol, body mass index, smoking, talking about their medical history, providing risk reduction counseling, like I had just talked about. So not only are we providing the participant with something in writing about their results from their visit, but we're talking them through it verbally. So there's a reinforcement there. And then we're able to follow up with participants that want continued follow-up and support. Next slide. Thanks, Jonathan. So as I mentioned, this is one of my favorite parts of our program is we have the ability to provide lifestyle programs, or as CDC is now calling them, healthy behavior support services. We like acronyms, so LSPs and HBSSs. These are available to all Wise Women participants. We have short-term coaching, which occurs over the period of a month. We have health coaching with a specialist, so a participant can meet with a registered dietitian. They can meet with a mental health professional if they're indicating that their mental health is suffering. They are able to also meet with a community-trained medication therapy management pharmacist. So if our community health navigators notice that this participant that they're working with has 10 different medications and they're not taking them consistently, that would be a perfect participant to funnel to our MTM program. We also have health coaching with self-monitoring blood pressure, where the participant is given a blood pressure cuff and the community health navigator or navigator from our program provides follow-up and education to them to monitor their blood pressure and to help them find ways that are reasonable and realistic and achievable for the participant to reduce their blood pressure. We also are able to offer participants, again, this is all at no cost to the participant, with health coaching with the diabetes prevention program. We can pay for that for them. This is our favorite, well, and I shouldn't say our favorite, but participants love the health coaching with community support option because we have so many different community support options available to them. So examples are a gym membership. We have an agreement with Planet Fitness across the state of Connecticut where they provide the Connecticut Wise Women program with a discounted gym membership. Our participants love this. Of course, that was different when COVID was at its peak, but participants are starting to feel a little more comfortable and wanting to get back involved into the gym and become active. We can do Zumba classes, yoga classes. We have St. Francis in Hartford is one of our sites that we've been working with for a while. And they came to us at the Department of Public Health and said, women need access to fresh fruits and vegetables. How can we do that? So we have community garden plots, and we're working with Knox Garden in Hartford, where our participants not only plant, but they keep up with the community gardens, and then they're able to take the fresh produce with them. So we're teaching them a sustainable skill. In addition to that, we're also able to provide health coaching with Wellness Wins, or formerly Weight Watchers. And we say and more because typically what happens is our different contracted sites come to us and say, Jonathan, Chelsea, and the rest of our team, that's how we came up with the mental health professional support. The St. Francis team came to us and said, our participants are struggling with their mental health. How can we talk to them about improving their blood pressure if they don't even want to get out of bed to go get their mail every day? So, you know, we're trying to take into consideration what our navigators are telling us participants need, and then bringing it to CDC and saying, hey, this is what we're noticing. How can we make this work for our participants? Next slide. So where do we find our participants for the Connecticut Early Detection and Prevention Program? We say almost anything goes. And if you have some recommendations of where we should be looking for our target population, please let us know. But we have our community health navigators are just that. They're community health workers that are familiar with their community. And so they go to different community locations, educate them about our program, and you know, leave information, set up shop in like different local WIC offices. We have them go to nail salons, grocery stores, faith-based organizations is a really big one for us, restaurants, food banks, Head Start centers, Planned Parenthoods, community fairs. We have a lot of community outreach, and we've actually partnered up with the Walmart Wellness Days, which Walmarts across the nation, I don't know if you all know this, Walmarts across the nation have quarterly wellness days. Every single Walmart across the nation has the same date quarterly that they have a wellness day. It's typically on a Saturday, right, Jonathan? I believe so. Yeah, he's shaking his head. Yeah. So we told our teams, our navigators, that we need to be represented there and showing our program. Next slide. Oh, and so I kind of already talked a lot about our community health navigators, but when I came on board in 2015, the community health navigator bus was already rolling. It was very new and had just started, but we had said that you know, we needed to break down the barriers to program participation, and the way we were going to do that was by using community health navigators. So currently for our integrated program, we have 11 community health workers across the state. 3 community health workers were just hired for the colorectal cancer program, and so they're getting on board as well. But they're able to, like I had said, provide direct screening services wherever is safe and appropriate for the Wise Women participants. Breast and cervical cancer screening is a little bit harder because of the equipment required in order to provide that type of screening. But we even have mobile mammography vans through the Hartford Healthcare, and I believe that Yale has one as well. That's been a great success for bringing the full component of our screening services into the community setting. So I think that's it, Jonathan. If you want to go to the next slide, this is our contact information, and we will be sharing the slide presentation in a PDF format with Sheila so that she can email it out to all of you. And in that, Sheila, I'll include the eligibility requirements that we have. So it breaks it down based on, I see you giving thumbs up, it breaks it down based on family size and income, so that it's very clear whether you can tell if someone is eligible or not. And then it also lists our different hospital locations across the state and who to contact. So if you know that you're working with someone that lives and works in New Haven and you think that they might be eligible for that program, for our program, you can funnel that person, or, you know, I'm not sure how all of you refer, but if you felt so comfortable to help even contact one of our navigators for the individual that you're working with, that's okay too. And now I'll open it up to any questions that you all might have.
Thank you so much, Chelsea and Jonathan. This was really great. And again, the whole intention